Shri Rasayan Devike is the university song Vidyapeeth Geet, which was composed by Professor G.D. Yadav, Vice Chancellor of the Institute of Chemical Technology, Mumbai, on 27th Feb 2012, the Marathi Bhasha Din. It was released on the occasion of the first Convocation Day on 6th March 2012 in the august presence of the Honorable Chief Minister Shri Prithviraj Chauhan, the Minister of Higher and Technical Education Shri Rajesh Tope, and the Chancellor Dr. R.A. Mashelkar.
The theme of the song is to respect nature and be in harmony with it by adopting green, clean, and smart chemical technologies, and to serve humanity with complete sincerity. It also talks about a confluence of chemical sciences and engineering with biological sciences and a world with no pollution, be it land, water, or air. Blessings are sought for disease-free long life. The goddess Rasayan Devika is a symbiosis of the basic concept, and the words have been chosen so as to depict that ICT will add to the beauty and charm of the Mother Nature.
The song was equally composed and sung by ICT students Jitendra Tongaonkar, Ashwini Tilak, Swanand Gangal, Prasad Surve, Sharad Darandale, Aditya Koli, Amrita Bhavne, Rohini Tangsale, Nupur Rathi, and Zui Raut.
I would request Professor A.B. Pandit, our beloved Vice Chancellor, to say a few words on this occasion. Mr. Pandit, you can go ahead with your introductory talk.
Yeah, okay. I mean, it is not going to be an introductory talk. Essentially, what I'm going to do is I'm going to compliment and welcome uh, the ICT IOC Bhubaneswar Center and wish them many happy returns of the day, because this has been a 2-year saga in which ICT IOC Center has done remarkably well. 2 years have been actually a very small period, and the kind of achievements and the recognition and the brand value which they have been able to generate, either through sponsored projects, through getting PhD fellowships, through getting funds for socially relevant activities, they need to be complemented. And today, the inauguration or inaugural talk of Padma Shri Professor G.D. Yadav, distinguished oration, you could not have found a better person than Professor Samir Mitra Gotri. I would like to thank the initiatives of Professor Yadav, which actually resulted into this particular center. And I'm very happy to see him joining all of you, and also there to wish you all. But the kind of setup which was initially envisaged and the way it was implemented in its first 1.5 years has made a big difference and has set the kind of path which is expected of the center. I'm sure with guidance continued from Professor Yadav and this dynamic team at ICT IOC Bhubaneswar Center, and the new initiatives which have been taken up, is going to go places, and in years to come, this will be recognized as one of the premium engineering and technological institute of the region first, and then I'm hoping at some point of time it also starts competing and in some areas overtakes ICT Mumbai. I'm eagerly looking for that day where I would be able to compliment for surpassing us. As a teacher, you always enjoy the success of your student. So I'm sure if the student performs better than you are the happier person, or you're the happiest person as compared to your own achievement. So I would just like to welcome Professor Samir Mitra Gotri for today's Foundation Day talk, titled as Professor G.D. Yadav, Distinguished Orator, through an endowment which was created at ICT IOC Center. Again, this is not generated various activities which have been performed and the revenue which has been generated. ICT Mumbai Center has not contributed to any of these. In fact, they have been supporting many of ICT Mumbai's initiatives, especially library and other activities. And I gratefully acknowledge the contribution of ICT IOC Center, and also request Professor Yadav to continue to guide and assist us in terms of implementations of newer and more exciting avenues and courses which can make a hallmark of this center. So again, many happy returns of the day. Professor Thorat, you should have got a cake and you should have cut the cake. That would have been a nice activity, and you virtually could have sent it across to everybody. Anyway, all the very best, and I look forward to listening to you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Pandit, for your welcome address. Uh, the the genesis of ICT IOC lies in the magnanimous support coming from Indian Oil Corporation. Without Indian Oil Corporation, this institute would not have come up. visionaries, the Minister of Petroleum, Dharmendra Pradhan, the then Chairman Sanjeev Kumar, and our own beloved Ranjan Mahapatra's initiative went and created this wonderful institute in the Bhubaneswar. I would request the charming and dynamic Director HR of IOC, Mr. Ranjan Mahapatra, to uh, come onto the dais and say a few words about today's function. But before that, let me introduce Sri Ranjan Mahapatra. Ranjan Mahapatra is one of the brightest stars of Indian Oil. He is a BTech from Pilani, BITS Pilani, MBA from XIMB. Started his career from first level in Indian Oil Corporation and rose to become the Director HR of IOCL. Mr. Ranjan Mahapatra is an expert in supply chain management and is responsible for opening several avenues for Indian Oil Corporation globally. He is also the chairman of governing council of skill development institutes in Bhubaneswar. One of the hallmark of this gentleman is that during the pandemic period, he has created and wonderful record which should be cherished and recorded. He brought out a very innovative change in imparting continuous education and skill upgradations amongst 20,000 odd employees of Indian Oil Corporation. Ranjanji, thanks for your initiatives in utilizing this pandemic period and making sure that the IOC's next level of leadership is also in place. So with this, I would like to welcome you and give your guest of honor address. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Thorat. Thank you very much.
Let me just welcome Ranjan. Very happy to see you, and many thanks for gracing the occasion with your presence. We really look forward to your continued assistance and continued support. Thank you.
No, thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Panditji. Thank you.
Also joined.
I know. With the presence of Shyamaji, with the presence of Yadavji, everybody gets overwhelmed. So there can be gaps. So nevertheless, Padma Shri Professor Yadavji, Chief Guest Professor Samirji, VC ICT, of course, our dear Panditji, Director ICT IOC, Professor Thoratji, esteemed scientists, distinguished guests, students of ICT IOC, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, yes, I'm getting overwhelmed because this is the third foundation day. And I remember the first foundation day itself when it was laid by Honorable President, and it was within a short span. The way this institute has come up, I think what Professor Pandit was telling, it gives us lots of pleasure. It gave us a lot of goosebumps in this beginning, but it definitely, I think Professor Yadav has been so passionate about the entire thing. And I remember our discussions, our meetings here in Delhi, also in Bhubaneswar, and unending discussions, and then finally seeing it fructifying to an institute, which Professor Pandit has told about a vision. I think that vision should be well taken by all the students and faculties who are there in ICT IOC, that he wants ICT IOC to be beyond ICT Mumbai. That's something really, I think as a teacher, this is a challenge to the students. So I think probably, I'm sure this ICT IOC group will definitely take it forward. Of course, I must place on record the efforts, the contributions of our own Honorable Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas, and currently Steel also, Shri Dharmendra Pradhan ji, actually, who has not only made it possible. I think Professor Yadav also has been in close contacts with him, who has not only made it possible, it is his impetus by which we have seen it growing at a fast pace. When can you expect a cabinet minister, an honorable minister, coming himself and going around and seeing the site, which we did it just 2 months back? I think entire ICT team was there. So that shows the amount of involvement which is there from our honorable minister. Today, I think the institute boasts of 250 students and runs some truly relevant programs. I think this is what, again, it's a thought process of Professor Yadav, which has made it completely different from a normal institute. I think all the students sitting here must be extremely proud, feeling extremely proud that this institute is going to serve the national cause of skill gap in the country. I mean, between the industry requirement and the education. I think this is the true spirit of National Skill Mission. It's also the true spirit of Atma Bharat initiative. So I'm sure that this institute will be meeting that requirement. I think the 5-year integrated MTech program has been very uniquely designed, and it's something completely different from what we normally see. And the way the students are undergoing internship, and the way students, I mean, last time when we were there in the GC, we were discussing the amount of the type of projects has been completed by the students. It's a proud thing for each one of us to know that. I think, and it is a variety of institutes, a variety of industries which are being addressed as well. Of course, one more program, that is that executive MTech program, very newly designed, very concepts are completely different, and still it is making, and probably because of COVID, it did not really come to its full shape in the last year. But I'm sure the way it has been developed, it will definitely come up, and it will definitely reach the level which Professor Yadav wanted and Professor Pandit has been wanting these days whenever we are discussing. I think at Indian Oil, I must say that we feel a lot of gratitude amongst ourselves and a lot of humility that although, what Professor Pandit told, what Professor Thorat also told, that we have been trying to contribute through our CSR and all to this particular institute. But the benefit, the benefits which this particular institute is giving, not only just in skill building, but application of technology, employment generation, economic development, and as well as upliftment in rural sector, we feel honored. We feel really humbled by our contribution. I think we are just making a small way of knowing the society that we care for it. I think we just before I conclude, I can say that we have seen a recent example, of course, this was of Professor Pandit's own initiative, the Bindusagar Lake project that we did. And day before yesterday, I think 2 days before, I received the reports from Sarangi sir, and I am extremely pleased. This is the thing which we can bring it to people. Then obviously we are there. I mean, we have done our job. So once again, many happy returns of the day to entire ICT IOC faculty, all those who are associated with ICT IOC. I wish this particular socially relevant, industry-aligned academic institution a grand success. All the best. Keep on doing well. And of course, before I conclude, pandemic is not yet over, so that's why we are meeting virtually. Otherwise, I would have loved. I know that photograph which is there behind Professor Thorat was taken a year after. I think of the first one, and we all would have loved to be there like that and have a frame in which we would have seen ourselves. But nevertheless, pandemic is not yet over. Please do take care of yourself. I always keep on telling everybody, do take care of yourself so that you can take care of others as well. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you, Ranjanji. I would request Mr. Ram Babu, Dr. Ram Babu Dandela, to read out the message that we received from Professor Manmohan Sharma and Dr. Ramesh Mashilkar. Over to Dr. Ram Babu.
Okay. Third Foundation Day remarks by Chancellor Dr. R.A. Mashilkar, FRS. Let me extend my warmest greetings to you all. We are celebrating the third Foundation Day of our beloved institute today. It is a wonderful forward and upward journey of an institute which I am confident has enormous potential. I still have a very vivid recollection when I was here physically in the Bhubaneswar campus to witness the inaugural function. I cannot be with you today physically, but I assure you that my mind and feelings will be with you all as we do this joyous celebration. I must congratulate Professor Bhaskar Thorat, our dynamic director, for the wonderful leadership that he is providing with the support of the most inspiring leadership, our Vice Chancellor, Professor Aniruddha Pandit. Further, I am very happy to see that Professor Thorat has established Padma Shri Professor G.D. Yadav Foundation Day of Oration of our institute. Professor Yadav has played a huge role in not only raising the parent institute ICT, but also it was his valiant efforts which finally lead to the creation of our own institute here in Bhubaneswar. I am even happier to see that Professor Samir Mitragotri is going to be the chief guest for the function. I am sure his usual insightful and electrifying speech on a subject which is current. We are very proud that Professor Mitragotri is a product of ICT since he has already created a niche for himself in the top echelons in undisputedly the topmost university in the world, Harvard University. He should be a role model for our students. I am very happy that Sri Ranjan Kumar Mahapatra, the Director of Human Resources at IOCL, has consented to be the distinguished guest of honor of the event. But for IOCL's wholehearted contribution, our institute would not have simply existed today. Our grateful thanks are due to IOCL. As a coincidence, on 10th March, I was the chief guest at the 50-year celebration of R&D of IOCL. There, I had expressed my deep appreciation of IOCL's contribution to nation building. And of course, building this great institution is also a part of that nation building. Finally, I would like to end this brief message by exhorting you to the five Mashalkar mantras, which I am not tired of repeating as they have helped me in my life just as they will help you too. I am sure. First, aspirations. So keep them always high. Second, like instant coffee. There is no instant success. There is no substitute to hard work. But work hard in silence. Let success make all the noise. Third purpose, perseverance and passion will take you forward in life. It is always too early to quit. Winners never quit. Quitters never win. Fourth, always be part of solution. Never be part of a problem. Only engineering that will help you succeed in life solution engineering. Fifth, all my best wishes to you all on your journey upwards on the ladder of excellence, which is truly limitless. The only limit being what you put on your mind. So just go limitless, my young friends. Thank you very much. My best wishes may ICT IOC attain greater heights. Odisha has a very high potential to make gainful use of ICT IOC's graduates and PhD students. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, sir, for giving this opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you, Rambabu Dandela. Before we move on to the chief guest address, it is my duty to introduce to you and say a few words about the establishment of Padma Shri Professor G.D. Yadav Distinguished Oration. Well, Professor G.D. Yadav took the baton from his predecessors, Padma Bhushan Professor J.B. Joshi and Padma Vibhushan Professor M.M. Sharma, Manmohan Sharma. He ran the race of life against time. While on the turn of the tracks, he did something extraordinary, which only few have done in their life. He established two greenfield projects, two greenfield institutes, ICT IOC and ICT Jalna. In fact, he's one of the rarest academician and the creator and sits in the league of some of the greatest institution builders, the founders of some of the iconic institutes. And I was looking into some of the history pages and I found some of them. Maybe this would be more appropriate to put Professor Yadav in that league. I read about Purushottam Kelkar, who was instrumental in establishment of IIT Kanpur. Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, who established the BHU in Benares. Dr. Satish Dhawan, Indian Institute of Science. He was the director, long-time director of Indian Institute of Science, and then he was instrumental in running the ISRO. And ISRO today, you see that it is one of the iconic institutes. So he dreams big. And what about Professor Yadav, an accomplished, most prolific uh, engineering scientist in India? He is internationally recognized by many prestigious awards. An academician, researcher, and innovator, has his seminal contribution to the field of education, research, innovations in green chemistry and engineering, catalysts, chemical engineering, energy engineering, and so on and so forth. For 10 and a half years, he served as the founder, vice chancellor, R.T. Modi Distinguished Professor, Tata Chemicals Darbari Set Distinguished Professors of Leadership and Innovations at the Institute of Chemical Technology, which is deemed to be a university having elite status and center of excellence given by the State Assembly on par with IIT, IISc, and ISRO. His research productivity is phenomenal, supervising over 100 plus PhDs, over 100 plus masters, 35 plus postdocs, several research fellows. He guided research staff, published close to 500 research papers, over 100 granted patents as well as the PCT patents, national as well as international patents. He has 3 books. iChain Index, probably Samir will be more proud of it because he has established a record for himself, and several citations and other things. He is a fellow of over a dozen Academy of Sciences and Engineering. And what he has done during his stay at ICT is only few can dream of doing the service to the nation, an institute builder. What I said is that he has learned this trade in the same institute, and he has taken the baton and taken the ICT to the next level. So it is left to the next leadership to take the institute to the much greater height. And then, having learned from such wonderful people, what was needed is to make sure that this legacy continues. And in order to continue the legacy, ICT IOC took the initiatives in establish this chair in the name of Professor G.D. Yadav. To honor Professor G.D. Yadav in the most appropriate way, so IOC decided to create an endowment in his honor. The Royal Society of Chemistry and American Chemical Society have lent strong support to this endowment. And of course, his well-wishers are contributing to this endowment so as to make it as sizable as possible so that we can have wonderful people like Samir Mitragotri making physical presence in the institute when the pandemic goes out. So who can we think about the best to start this endowment? The first speaker. And to best up on this honor, Professor Samir Mitragotri, a serial techno-entrepreneur and a world-class researcher in his own right, we have chosen him to deliver the first Padma Shri Professor GDY oration. So that's the genesis behind establishment of the Professor GDY, Padma Shri Professor GDY Distinguished Chair. Let me introduce to you the today's speaker, the first speaker, Samir Mitragotri. What you can say about this great young gentleman? And his biodata is like an amazing and inspiring to any young scientist, young engineer. He is right now the professor of bioengineering, Hiller Professor of Bioengineering at the Harvard University. He has been there since 2017. And prior to that, for about 17 years, he was at University of California, Santa Barbara. He has his PhD from MIT in 1996. He is the alumni of our institute, became in 1992. And his research field, as you know, you will come to know about what he has done. So I'll not get into his research area. He's going to speak about his passion for the research in his chief guest address. He has over 325 publications in scientific journals, including Science, Nature Medicine, Nature Biotechnology, Nature Materials, Nature Chemistry, and very high impact factor research, very high impact factor journals. Has over delivered 500 invited and contributed lectures. Inventor on 200 pending or issued patents. More than 43,000 citations. H-index of 105. Any researcher, publishers dream of achieving that kind of number. Clarivate, highly cited researcher. Inventions translated into clinical technologies through several startups. I was just counting the numbers. Number is 11. He has 11 startup companies. And is attached to large number of large companies also. He's the founder editor in chief of Bioengineering Translational Medicines. If I keep on reading about his fellowship, I think one or two probably I'll read it because this fellowship I've seen it for the first time. He's elected fellow of National Academy of Inventors. Samir, you'd like to let us know where this, who runs this fellowship, certainly would like to look into other inventors also, and get inspired and have many more Samir Mitragotris coming from ICT IOC so that, this fellowship they can, it suits them. He's also elected the fellow of Controlled Release Society, AICT Food Pharmaceutical Bioengineering Division. He's also elected foreign members of INAE, elected member, National Academy of Medicines, elected fellow of American Association of Pharmaceutical Scientists, elected fellow of Biomedical Engineering Societies, and I think so on and so forth. I think I will stop reading his biodata. It's one page, but it still goes on. Samir, we are very privileged to have you. I remember when I spent about a couple of days with you in Santa Barbara, your home. You are a wonderful family. You have contributed very immensely, and a gentleman, absolutely fire in the belly, and passion in the heart. And I think what we can say about you, you have shown the path to many, many researchers how to carry the research and take it to the community. So thank you, Samir, for accepting our first endowment lecture, Padma Shri Professor G.D. Yadav, distinguished professor. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Professor Thorat, for such a kind and wonderful introduction. So it's such an honor to be with you all on this occasion. It's an honor to be called by the alma mater to address the students and the professors. But it's a particular honor to be called to give a lecture, which is named after one of your beloved professors, Professor G.D. Yadav. So I want to take this opportunity, Professor Yadav, to congratulate you on all your accomplishments to date. Your research, which has really impacted the foundation of chemical engineering, your championship to ICT, which has taken it in a new direction, all your contribution to the chemical engineering profession, but most importantly, for impacting thousands of students like me. You have inspired us all to set our own journey, and this address and this event is dedicated to you. So congratulations and thank you for all that you have done for me and many like me in the field. I also want to congratulate Professor Thorat for reaching this exciting milestone for ICT IOC. Starting something new is always exciting and fun. At the same time, it's also challenging, requires tremendous dedication and leadership. And thanks to your leadership, ICT IOC has come at this milestone. So I want to congratulate you and wish you all the best in the coming future days and years. I want to take this opportunity to share my journey with you. I have given many lectures at ICT focused on the technical details of some of the work that we have done. So I want to take this opportunity to not go so much into the technical details, but share my journey with you. The path that I have taken, the things that I have learned and the way they have influenced me. My journey has been witnessed by my professors, many of whom are in the audience today. And I'm delighted to share this in front of them. But I particularly want to address the students who are in the audience today, who may be looking at the things that we might have accomplished from a distance. But I want to take them closer to what has gone into making of this, and hopefully address some of the questions and comments that they may have that may be helpful to them. So let's start at the beginning. Many of you may know this. I was born and raised in a town, Solapur, in Maharashtra, a town that Professor Thorat knows very well. A very simple and humble town, known for people with transparency and simplicity. And growing up there has been a tremendous influence on me and my upbringing. Professor Thorat mentioned my family, which has a huge impact on who I am and the kind of journey I have taken, and I'm deeply thankful for them, thankful to them for setting me on this journey. This is my high school. I went to this high school, learned many things, but one of the most important things that this high school taught us is that it's important to be a good human before you can accomplish anything. There was so much emphasis on being a good person, a good friend, a good son or daughter. And those values inspired by the teachers in high school have had a tremendous influence on me. And even today, when I think about problems, when I think about my interactions with my fellows and my students, this is something it's my top priority. At the top, you see the school's motto, which says Hati Ghalte Tadisnya. For those of you who may not be familiar with Marathi, that basically means finish what you start. And this has been one of the most important things I have learned. I didn't realize at that time the importance of this motto, but as I get older and older, I realized that more and more prominently. It's easy to start many things, but it's not easy to finish them. And that's where dedication, perseverance comes in. So whether it's a school project that you do a homework project that you do in school, or an important research project that you do in professional career, it is important to finish what you start. So I'm deeply thankful to my school for inscribing those values in our education. This particular gentleman, his name is Keshav Shinde, one of my teachers in Solapur, and he has had a tremendous impact on me. He obviously taught me a lot in the classroom, chemistry, physics, but one of the most important things he did, which I will be ever thankful to him, is that he sent me to ICT. Growing up at that time in Solapur, it was not easy to get information about the world. This was certainly in a time way before the internet and communication was always slow. And we always relied on our teachers and friends and families to direct us to find a good place to go to. And Keshav Shinde knew about ICT at that time, UDCT, very well. And even though I did not know so much about UDCT at that time, he told me that, Samir, you should go to UDCT. That's the place for you to be. It's a fantastic school. It will teach you chemical engineering. And without really knowing what am I going to learn, how it's going to impact my life, I trusted him and I came to UDCT, and that has changed my life forever. Life really took a dramatic turn when I showed up at this wonderful institution. I'm deeply, deeply indebted to ICT. It has changed my life, not only professionally, but personally, in ways that I could never imagine. As a small kid growing up in a small town in Solapur, I would have never thought what the possibilities are. And one of the best ways to learn the possibilities is to be surrounded by people who have seen things before you. And coming to this institution has had a dramatic impact on not only what I do, but also how I think and what I think about. And when you think about an institution, you wonder what is it that is really impacting about the institution. And without a doubt, the first and the most important thing are the faculty, the professors. So this is a picture taken about 4 years ago now. This was our class 25th reunion. This was pre-pandemic days, obviously, so we could travel. And we had a wonderful time reuniting in the auditorium and celebrating the event, getting a chance to see our faculty or our beloved professors after a long time. At the center of the picture is the celebrity for the today's celebrity, Professor G.D. Yadav. We had wonderful time recollecting our time from UDCT with him at that time. Professor Sharma, who has had a tremendous impact on me, my approach to science, my approach to life, my approach to thinking about the problem, deeply indebted to him. Professor Bhagwat in the picture, who showed us many new possibilities with his teachings. Not in the picture, Professor J.B. Joshi and Professor Pandit, who had tremendous impact on thinking about big problems, making us aware of what's out there and how not to be afraid of thinking big and taking on a big challenge. So what did ICT teach me? Many things. And many of them were in the classroom. Many of them were outside the classroom. As you can imagine, as a kid growing up in Solapur, for the first time coming to Mumbai in a big city, there were a lot of life lessons to be learned. And I did learn them. And they have had a huge impact. But I'll focus for a moment on the thing that I learned in the classroom. Now, when I think of a chemical plant, or when we all think of a chemical engineering in general, this is the kind of thing that comes to mind. Now, this particular picture will be very familiar to our chief guest, Mahapatraji. It's a fantastic example of a chemical plant. And when you look at it, it's just impressive. I mean, you look at this and you look at this as an accomplishment of great proportions by humanity. And the reason I think so is that, look at just the scale of it, right? It's a massive operation that moves around many things, lots of reactions going on, lots of separations going on, crude goes in, important products come out. And this is all doing of chemical engineers. Chemical engineers have been responsible for thinking about this problem, for understanding the principle behind it, but more importantly, using the knowledge to build something as massive as this. Now, you may look at this and say, well, all engineering branches do that. What is so unique about chemical engineering? And let me sort of speak to that. Here are some other examples of engineering. Equally marvelous, the kind of thing that have inspired humanity, the kind of thing that have taken us to a new level as a society. On the left-hand side is a picture of Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, a phenomenal example of architecture. On the right-hand side, you see more pictures of rockets taking off from Earth, automobile, semiconductor processors, all of which you can agree have had a tremendous impact on us. But there is a big difference in all these accomplishments versus, I think, the accomplishments of chemical engineering. A key difference being the accomplishment that you see on this slide here have been built on a good understanding of the underlying phenomena. For example, bridges were built on a solid understanding of mechanics. Spaceships were built when laws of physics were perfectly understood and can be predicted. Semiconductor chips were built when the fundamental laws of electricity were long known for hundreds of years before this feat could be accomplished. In contrast to that, I think that chemical engineers have built plants while the knowledge is still being simultaneously developed. As a field, we are still trying to understand what are the fundamental principles of fluid flows. as a field, we are still trying to understand the mechanism of catalysis. As a field, we are still trying to understand the basic principles or the molecular explanation of mass transfer. And while that was happening, while that was evolving, these huge plants were built and successfully operated to produce things that have had a huge impact on the society. And that, I think, is a quite unique contribution of chemical engineering. Now, how did we accomplish that as a chemical engineer? I did not have a full appreciation for this when I was learning chemical engineering as an undergraduate. But now when I look back, I think I have a better appreciation for this. And here is my thought or analysis of that. The way chemical engineering has evolved is that we are taught to take a complex problem, whether it's manufacturing of a particular chemical or whether it's a refinery, take this complex problem and not to be afraid of it, not to be worried by it, but break it into small components, which we call unit operations, unit processes. And within each of this unit operation, try to develop as much understanding as you can. Some things we may understand at a deep level, at a molecular level, that's great. We can use that knowledge to build things. Some processes we may not understand fundamentally, so let's build practical knowledge around it. Let's build correlations. Let's build empirical understanding, enough to a point where we can build these things. And then finally, connect all these processes, connect all these bits of knowledge to create a comprehensive plan, a comprehensive systems level analysis so that we can build these huge operations. And that is a very important attribute because it not only applies to chemical engineering, it applies practically to every problem in life. Whether it's a technical problem or a non-technical problem, you can always look at a complex situation, reduce that in bits, understand the bits, and make sure that you understand the connectivity of these different units. Another thing that I learned, which was at ICT, which again, I did not have full appreciation at that time, but looking back, I think this is one of the most valuable lessons I learned at ICT, largely coming from professors who taught us. This particular quote goes to Goethe, who, and this goes back, actually a few centuries, who said that, knowing is not enough. We must apply. Willing is not enough. We must do. And what that essentially means is that it's useful to learn your classroom education. It's useful to develop the knowledge. It's useful to understand the fundamentals, but that is not enough. We must use that understanding to build something. We must use that knowledge to do something in a way that benefits the society. Now, when we look at the academic world today, there is a buzz about translation, which basically means converting academic ideas into useful products. ICT has been doing that even before this was fashionable. And this is one of the most fundamental contribution, I think, of ICT to the students like me and many others who are pursuing engineering in different ways. So after getting this sort of foundation from ICT, I came to MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, a wonderful school in Cambridge, to pursue my PhD in chemical engineering. And frankly, at that time, I did not know exactly what am I going to work on. All I knew was I want to work on an important problem that's going to have an impact. And I feel that I have this great foundation in chemical engineering, but the precise problem to work on wasn't clear. And that's when I met this wonderful gentleman. His name is Professor Robert Langer. Those of you who have gone to ICT's Library of Scientists in the main building may have seen his picture there. Among his many contributions to the humanity, his most recent one is the founding of Moderna, which has led to the COVID-19 vaccine. So a chemical engineer by training who has made tremendous impact on engineering as well as humanity. So when I talked to Bob, I was really inspired by his way of thinking. And I said, I really want to use my chemical engineering knowledge to address biological problems. I don't know much about biology, but I think I have a good foundation for chemical engineering. And he said, that's exactly what we need. I can teach you about biology. We can collectively study about the human physiology, but let's see how can an engineering approach have an impact on health and medicine. And when you look at it, the human body is really a metaphor or a good example of what a chemical plant does at some high level, right? So you have these different organs. Let's call them unit operations. Your kidneys do a great job of filtration. Your liver does many, many different reactions which are placed in a compact organ. Your heart is a pump. Your lungs is a transporter for oxygen. So in many different ways, each of these organs are performing a very distinct and well-defined function, but at the same time, they're all connected by the blood vessels, and they're all under the control of the neuronal network, call it a process control. And I was just fascinated by this analogy and wanted to see whether we can start thinking about the transport in the biological system in a chemical engineering way, and what contribution it might have, what impact it might have on the development of new therapeutics. So what is the impact or what is the benefit of thinking about the human body in a very rational, very engineering way? The problem is this, and the reason to do this is following. When you take a pill, any pill that you may be thinking about, whether it's for blood pressure, for diabetes, or even for a headache, very rarely you think about what happens to that pill when you take it, right? We are so used to taking a pill with a glass of water and we kind of forget about it. But that pill has to be designed to make sure that it goes where it needs to go. And in many different ways, you can think of this, or you can probably draw a parallel between that problem and what you see in this picture is a Mars rover, right? This particular little gadget took off from the planet Earth. It traveled, millions of miles, landed on the planet Mars, moved around, took pictures, and sent the pictures back. So think about the complicated journey that this little thing had to go through, but we as a humanity successfully accomplished that. And when this project was first taken was started in the US, this particular effort cost about $1 billion, good chunk of money. In contrast, when a new company develops a new drug for any disease, diabetes, heart condition, cancer, it takes them right these days about $3 billion, and it takes about 10 years. And that's puzzling, right? So when it takes less money to send something to Mars than it does to send the drug inside our own body. Why is that? Because we understand the laws of physics much better than the laws of biology. And that's where I thought engineering can have a huge impact. Can we understand the transport processes in the body? Can we predict them? Can we control them? With the goal that if you can control them, you can deliver drugs better, you can develop drugs faster, and they will be cheaper and more effective. So what kind of transport systems are we talking about? Here are some examples of important transport problems in the body. The body, if you think about it, has designed its own transportation system for its own good. It's not designed to take drugs, right? I mean, it has evolved through the evolution over years and years to carry out its own metabolic functions. For example, take a look at the skin. Our outer skin, it's a fantastic biological barrier. Nothing is supposed to go in. So now you imagine if you want to put the drug on your skin so that it goes inside the body, the skin doesn't want that. Less than 1% of the drug that you put on the skin ends up in the skin. Our guts another important barrier. Wouldn't it be nice if we can just take insulin as a pill? We cannot, because when you swallow insulin, it goes in the guts and gets destroyed by the enzymes, because that's how we digest food. Wouldn't it be nice if you can inject some nanoparticles in the blood and they go to the tumor and selectively kill it? It doesn't happen because the liver clears them out. The liver wants to clear all foreign particles in the blood, and your drug nanoparticles are an example of that. So actually less than 1% of the drug that you inject eventually goes to the tumor. The brain, another great example of a barrier. It is so well protected that nothing in the blood is really supposed to enter the brain, which is good. It protects the brain. But how are we going to treat Alzheimer's, brain cancer, if the drugs cannot go in there? So when you look at these transport efficiencies of 0.1%, 1%, that's a huge problem. No chemical plant will be built if we have transport efficiencies of 1%. We all be thinking about how can we increase the efficiency. So we said that's what we're going to do. We're going to improve the efficiency of these transport processes and be able to control them at will so that we can deliver drugs effectively anywhere we want. So one of the first problems we started looking at was figuring out how can we deliver drugs without needles. So the idea was we can take insulin or any drug, put that on the skin and let it absorb in a very painless, effective way. Imagine just like a Band-Aid, which can deliver any drug that you want. And if we can do that, there is no need to take injections. Because right now, all protein drugs are delivered by injections, whether it's insulin, whether it's antibodies, vaccines, they're all taken by injections because that's the only way to put them into the body. And nobody likes injections. They're painful. There is a lot of inappropriate use of needles that causes infections. So it will be nice if we can be simply delivered by a patch. So we worked on it, and that research eventually led to the development of this device, which is called Sonoprep. It's a device that uses ultrasound. Sound waves at a frequency about 20 kilohertz. These sound waves cause cavitation, formation of small bubbles, and these gas bubbles, when they occur on the skin, they open up the skin reversibly, and they keep the skin open for about 24 hours. And during that time, you can put the drug on the skin and let it go into the body. So using this device, we were able to deliver insulin, vaccines, and many other drugs. This device was first developed through academic research, and it was later developed by a company called Santra Medical, and it was approved by the FDA for use for children and other population for delivering drugs. So not only we wanted to develop a technology, but see it being transferred into industry and eventually reach the clinic. After that experience, I moved from MIT to this wonderful town that Professor Thorat mentioned. This is a picture of Santa Barbara, a beautiful, beautiful town located between the mountains and the ocean on the West Coast. I had the pleasure of hosting many of the ICT faculty there. Professor Thorat, Professor Pandit, Professor Joshi visited there. And there, we continued our journey to understand biological processes and build new devices and technologies which can answer important problems in the body. And I'll tell you about one of them. One problem I wanted to address was how do we collect information from the body in a better way? So not only we want to deliver drugs, but we also want to monitor what's happening in the body. So how is it done currently? Currently, if you want to get diagnosed with something, the main way to do that is through a blood draw. The process is typically done using what is called phlebotomy. You go to the office, you sit in the chair, and they put this large needle into your vein and collect a lot of blood and do the analysis. The process is really barbaric. It hasn't changed in the last 50 years. This is exactly how they used to collect blood in the 1960s. So we thought, wouldn't it be nice if we can get blood out in a simpler way? So using a microneedle technology, we developed this device, which has been commercialized by a company called 7sense Biosystems. So this device is of the size of maybe an inch in diameter. It sits on your skin. It's a tiny device that you can receive at home in mail. You put that on the skin, you push that green button, and in about a minute or two, you get a sample of blood that can be sent out for analysis. One of the most impacting things that this device can enable is it can decentralize blood collection. Right now, if somebody wants to have their blood drawn, they have to go to the clinic and sit in the chair. This device will allow the device to come to home, so you can do blood collection at home. And there hasn't been a more important time to do this than now, when going to the clinic in itself is a challenge because of the pandemic. So the expectation is that this device will not only collect the blood in a painless way, which will help the patient, but will completely transform the process of blood collection by decentralizing this entire process. And the device collects enough blood to be able to do all important analysis that you want to do. After a few years in Santa Barbara, 17 to be specific, the journey brought me back to the East Coast of the US at Harvard University, where I'm currently in the area of bioengineering. And we continued our journey asking these questions at Harvard. Again, we wondered where are some of the important problems that engineering solutions can find, engineering analysis can find good solutions to. And one of the recent problem that we addressed through research was delivering proteins orally. As I mentioned, all proteins are injected, insulin, vaccines. Wouldn't it be nice if we can simply take a pill, an insulin pill? And the challenge is that you cannot do that because insulin gets degraded in the stomach by enzymatic digestion. So we developed a technology based on ionic liquids. Ionic liquids are liquid salts, just like sodium chloride, except that sodium and chloride are small ions, so they form a crystal. But if you take organic anions and organic cations, they form a liquid salt. And these ionic liquids have been used in industry for chemical processes, but they have not been used in biomedical applications. So we thought that's a wonderful opportunity. This ionic liquid did amazing things. They were able to solubilize proteins, they're able to stabilize proteins, and they were able to improve the uptake of proteins across the gut, so we can deliver insulin simply by an oral pill. And this particular technology is currently being developed by a company called I2O Therapeutics. How else can we improve the drug delivery and distribution? As I mentioned, one of the key challenges in the field of drug development is being able to target them to specific tissues. And this is probably most important in the case of cancer. Most of the cancer drugs are simple cell toxins. They kill cancer cells. So it's extremely important that you're able to target them selectively to the cancer cells. Otherwise, they cause a lot of toxicity. And that actually is the most significant challenge in chemotherapies. They work, but you can never give a sufficient drug dose to the patient because they are so non-specific that you're limited by the toxicity of the drug to the patient, and then you have to compromise the efficacy in the process. So we wondered, while synthetic drugs have a tough time being very selective, there are always inspiring examples in nature where selectivity is accomplished. Look at body's own cells. They circulate, they reach the destination whenever they want, wherever they want. So can we just simply use them to deliver drugs in a more effective way? So here what you see in this picture are tiny drug nanoparticles, the blue dots. They carry chemotherapy drugs and they're attached to red blood cells. The picture that you see are actual red blood cells. And when the drug nanoparticles attach themselves to red blood cells, something interesting happens. They basically go for a ride wherever the red blood cells go, and they achieve extreme specificity in the lungs. So a vast majority of the drug now ends up getting delivered to the lungs, which is great for treating lung cancer. Lung cancer is one of the major diseases. It's one of the leading causes of death from cancer. A lot of cancers also metastasize in the lungs. So we are using this strategy, essentially bio-inspired, biomimetic, biotransportation strategy, if you will, to target the drugs effectively in the lungs. Building on the same sort of theme, we are also developing strategies that utilize body's own immune cells for delivering drugs. What you see in the picture is body's own immune cell called a macrophage. Macrophage is body's innate immune cell. That means it basically fights to every infection, every invasion that the body sees. It has a remarkable access to practically any tissue in the body. Your drugs cannot go to the brain, but the macrophage literally has a free pass to get into the tissue, into the brain. So we wondered, can we just use them to get into tissues which are very difficult to get into? And for that, we developed this little patch that we call the backpack, the purple patch. That purple patch has the drug that sits on it and goes wherever the macrophage goes. And interestingly, we developed this strategy so that the macrophages can help our drugs to go to the specific tissues. Turns out it actually the drugs that help the macrophage. And let me elaborate in a minute why that is. Macrophages, as I mentioned, are body's innate immune cells. So when tumor develops in the body, these macrophages go there to fight. But tumors have a very unique system. They override the macrophage's immune response and basically use the macrophage to grow the tumor itself. So body's own ammunition is turned against it. So when the macrophage comes to the tumor, it's literally kind of, it gets confused as to whether to attack the tumor or to help the tumor, and the tumor actually uses it for its own benefit. And whenever that confusion arises, we thought we can simply give a strong signal to the macrophage by delivering a drug from this backpack that the macrophage's function is to attack the tumor. And it turns out that by this simple strategy, the macrophages maintain their ability to attack the cancer and can do so quite effectively. So currently we are using this strategy to treat breast cancer. So through examples like these and others, we have made tremendous progress in overcoming the biological barriers. These are the same barriers I showed you early on. From 1% efficiency of getting across the skin, we are up to 20% of the drug getting into the skin. From 0.1% of the drug being able to swallow, this is insulin, we can get up to 10% of the swallowed insulin to show up in the blood circulation. From 0.7% of the drug showing up in the tumor, now we can get 30% of the drug to show up in the lungs for lung cancer. From 0.1% showing in the brain, we can get 10% in the brain. So when you get these efficiencies from 0.1% to double-digit percent, that completely changes the game for drug development, because now we are not limited by what can we deliver, what can be a drug. And that, I think, is going to transform the process of drug development, and that's what we're excited about. So let me pause here and leave you with some of the lessons that I have learned through my journey. The most important lesson I have learned is that chemical engineering is a wonderful discipline. It has really taught me tremendously, not only about the technical specifics of how to design a reactor or design a plant, but more importantly, how to attack a complex problem. Don't be afraid of complex problems, because you can always simplify them. You understand as much as you can, you approximate what you cannot, connect the things, and you can attack any complex problem as complex as a human body. Along the process, I learned the value of being very curious. A lot of interesting questions are being addressed because somebody was curious at some point. So never underestimate the significance of curiosity, being bold and dream big. This is really an important lesson that I have learned, that things happen when someone thinks of a big idea, a big picture, and many of these ideas can fail, and that's okay. But unless the dream is big, the follow-up is not big. So it all starts with the big dream. Find great mentors all along. And this is not only about a lesson to be followed only in school, it's really a lifelong lesson. Some of the most important transformative directions in my journey have come from my mentors, which was my teacher sending me to ICT, professors from ICT sending me to MIT, and professor at MIT setting me on the journey of human body, and that continues. Many things which are difficult for us to see because of the experience, others can help overcome that and open the horizon to a much bigger world out there. So finding great mentors is a must. Don't be afraid of failures, because most things fail. What I showed you are some of the successful examples of my experiments. For every success, there are hundreds of failures. And one thing sort of I tell my students is that if something works in the first attempt, either it is not worth doing, or it is so simple that there was no need to do the experiment in the first place. So failure is an important part of the journey, and don't be afraid of failures. Surround yourself with great people, certainly great mentors, but great students, great colleagues. Ultimately, what gets things done are people. And it's the perseverance of people, it's the collective will of people that accomplishes things. So it's extremely important to surround yourself with great people. Be persistent. This was one thing among others that Dr. Mashelkar mentioned in his address as well. That persistence is the key, perseverance is the key. Success comes in small incremental steps. It's always challenging or maybe deceiving, I think, especially for the students, when they see someone like me talking about the big success in a talk, that this all came overnight or this all came in a very obvious step. Nothing can be farther from the truth. It has come from a series of small successful steps, and those small steps are extremely important. And finally, be humble. Every time I thought I knew something about human body and I can control it, the body has told me, no, you don't know anything. You have to learn a lot. And that humility has been a big part of the learning process, because the humility kind of makes you willing to learn and realize that there is far greater body of knowledge out there than one is aware of. And that is the first learning step in the bigger journey. And this is my absolutely last slide. I want to leave you this, especially for students. Especially when you look at me giving this picture, the idea may sort of come to people's mind that this is how science looks like, somebody giving a talk about their work and research. But in reality, what you see in this slide is the face of science. These are the individuals who are pushing the scientific frontier day in and day out. I'm just speaking on their behalf. This is a very diverse group of students representing a diversity in every possible way, and them coming together and them collectively dedicating themselves to the cause of science is what moving science forward. So we are all counting on you, the students in the audience, to continue this journey and take the science in the next direction. So let me stop here. I want to thank you again for attending this talk. I want to thank Professor Thorat for this invitation and this honor. And I want to again congratulate Professor Yadav for all his wonderful accomplishments and setting us on this journey. Thank you all.
Thank you, Professor Yadav. The journey of mentor-mentee continues. The journey of Samir Mitragutri's path toward achieving excellence continues. We have wonderful now mentor also. Vandana is again one of the finest mentors that we have. Vandana Patravale, nice to see you there. Yeah, the continues journey continues. Thank you everyone. Thank you Samir Mitragotri for getting up early in the morning, and you were before time. Before everybody was there. Thank you, Professor M. Sharma. You are always your presence means a lot to me. You are a light. You are inspiration to everyone, and you have taught us how to live the life, challenge the circumstances, and everything. So thank you, wonderful.
To thank already Professor Thorat has thanked. And on this Foundation Day, I think first of all we are thankful to Indian Oil and the Honorable Minister, already Ranjan ji has told. And I know that on 18th March, the President inaugurated this foundation stone. And in a very short span, we could do our this institute, we could build up this institute. I still remember the address by Dr. Nasilkar on Indian Oil Foundation, that is on 1st September. And the address by Honorable Minister Mr. Dharmendra Pradhanji on 8th September, commencement of this academic session, the first batch. I also recall the address by Professor M.M. Sharma. Today also he brought out, he came to us, the Royal Society of UK, there is a game carrier program, and we are all thankful to them for their gracious care. The untiring effort of Professor Jadhav and team is to be written in golden letters. Along with the support of Indian Oil officials and Mr. Ranjan Mahapatra and Chairman IOC in particular, Executive Director Mr. Bose and his team, the head of Odisha State Office and Indian Oil Marketing, and this team also deserves commendation. I am grateful and thankful to many, including IIT Kharagpur, who worked behind the scene to support us. Today's address by Mr. Ranjan Mahapatra, Professor G.D. Jadhav and Professor Samir Mitragotri, various aspects including a chemical engineer's perspective on drug development and delivery. It's an eye-opener. It was really an eye-opener. So nicely in simple language, Professor Samir Mitragotri has explained to our large number of students, viewers, and participants across the country. Hats off to you, Professor Mitragotri. When our first director and dynamic director, Professor Thorat, toyed with the idea of Padma Shri G.D. Jadhav oration by Professor Samir Mitragotri, we never expected it would be a real deal in these difficult times. The lesson learned from Professor Samir Mitrogotri's last slide is great. I think I'll remember that. We are thankful to our VC, Professor A.V. Pandit, who is another champion and has patented hydrodynamic cavitation technology in Bindusagar Lake is working fabulously, and all the people are very happy. I recall in first address of Honorable Minister, Mr. Dharmendra Pradhanji, suggested us if we do something for society, people will remember science and institute. That is what Professor Mitragotri has brought out. It's very nice, and we have implemented this in a very short time. And our faculty and director is also engaged in projects for welfare of the society along with Skill Development Institute of Bhubaneswar. We thank the Skill Development SDA also. Finally, I close my address with Foundation Day greetings, wishing many laurels for the institute in times to come. Thank you very much. I think already people are thanked.